So we're here with the next one of these sort of books by this person. This will be The Art of the Occult. A visual feast of eclectic artwork informed by inspired spiritual beliefs, magical techniques, and otherworldly experiences. Mystic and occult practices date back centuries. Since the Enlightenment, image makers have continued to be drawn to the esoteric, from the zodiac and alchemy to theosophy and the Kabbalah, spiritualism and ceremonial magic to the elements and sacred geometry. What is it that attracts artists to these unknown spheres? In The Art of the Occult, S. Elizabeth carefully curates over 175 artworks that aim to unravel the secrets of nature and human destiny. Discover the automatic drawings of Hilma F. Clint, Madge Jill, Leonardo Carrington's realist interpretation of alchemy, the Kabbalah, visionary spirit world of Ali Myers, photographers that explore identity through witchcraft, and many more works that transcend time and place, featuring leaders of artistic movements, contemporary icons, marginalized and the little known. The Art of the Occult will both inspire and delight. This is a book for all fans of magic, mysticism, and the mysterious. So, this is the second one after well, I think this actually came out first. Okay, I had been wondering that the crystal ball was featured in the Art of Darkness that we saw previously. I did kind of take a look, and I'm a little bit scared because I wasn't the biggest fan of her writing, and this one seems to have quite a bit more of it than The Art of Darkness. So we'll see if I can get over that, or find a system that works like we did with Art of Darkness. Our belief in magic and mysticism is a thread that runs glimmering throughout human history. Woven uncannily throughout that history are practitioners of the arcane arts, as well as hands-on visual artists who have been drawn to these unknown spheres and have created curious artworks that transcend time and place. Both artist and magician, sometimes in the same role, use the medium of creativity and art to illuminate mystical beliefs and philosophies, revealing to us all of those mysteries that cannot easily be seen. If we consider magic as the practice of manipulating these invisible forces to shape our visible world, it can be said that the link between art and magic is one that reveals hidden rules of nature and our world and beyond. It also explores the shadowy inner realms of dreams and desires. Magic in its earliest form is often referred to as the art, declares writer, occultist, and ceremonial magician Alan Moore. Art is, like magic, the science of manipulating symbols, words, or images to achieve changes in consciousness. Art making, then, is magic making. There is transformative process, magic present in both the creative process and the participatory act of observing an artistic creation. Both sides of the coin stem from the need to better understand the world around us. In doing so, to connect what is familiar and what we know to be true with glimpses from the world of the unknown. It's a great deal to be learned from both the process and practice of actively conjuring a work of art from the blank slate of the other and passively witnessing its form, function, and details from your interpretation of its meaning, learning as much about yourself as you do about the actual work. Losing yourself in the creation and contemplation of a work of art and gaining insights into yourself in the process is a fine bit of magic on your own, if you ask me. It seems silly at this point to bring up the fact that throughout history, for a good segment of the population, the term occult art has tended to conjure up pictures of devils, demons, and shocking imagery. I don't know that this is necessarily still the case today, but this is a good moment to point out that the term occult simply means hidden and is derived from the Latin occulare, meaning to cover over, to hide, or conceal. In essence, occult art is derived from our search for hidden knowledge of ourselves and our place in the universe. The resulting imagery created by artists exploring these ideas stems from a soul-deep desire for truth and awareness. A longing that connects us all regardless of creed or culture, and echoes through the many different religions and philosophies of our world. In fact, since the very beginning of human creativity itself, small carved figurines, ancient cave paintings, and primitive masks used for rituals and celebrations all hint at the very roots of art and magic, and intersect in a realm that is deeply emotional, very human. For ancient tribal people emerging from their base origins and attempting to make sense of the strange and unpredictable world they found themselves in, these artifacts created by shamans, prophets, and artists are some of the earliest examples of the use of visual art as a means of entering other realms for the answers they sought and the records made of what they encountered there. For our ancestors, this magical art was powerful, wondrous, transformative, with a catalyst that caused changes in life and a consequence resulting in profound changes within the artists themselves. Architecture in its earliest forms was also concerned with realities beyond the everyday, such as author and musician Gary Lachman, studying the very shape and contours of such visionary structures and spaces may offer us a cosmic glimpse into the hidden pattern embedded in everything, from the enormous stone slabs of Stonehenge reaching mysteriously towards the heavens to the precise planes of the pyramids, which are thought to contain much in the way of esoteric occult knowledge, to the Gothic cathedrals of Chartres and Notre Dame, whose very stones are said to whisper alchemical secrets about man, God, and the cosmos. From antiquity to the Enlightenment, the mysteries and practices of astrology, magic, and alchemy were believed instrumental in unraveling the secrets of nature and human destiny. In the wake of the West's exposure during the Middle Ages to the astrological beliefs of Arab philosophers and the mystical writings of late antiquity, these occult traditions became vibrant sources of inspiration for artists. During the Renaissance, we find evidence of occult influence due greatly in part to the rediscovery of the works of the most famous magician of all time, Hermes Trismegistus. The result was a steeping of hermetic and occult ideas, a transformational brew of magic and alchemy, which infused and invigorated the work of a wide range of artists, including Bosch, Bruegel, Dürer, and Caravaggio. The Enlightenment eventually gave way to the wildness of Romanticism, which rejected 18th century rationalism and reason, and emphasized the irrational and imaginative, the visionary and transcendental. The occult found revived expression in the visions of 19th century artists such as Henry Fuseli, who explored the darkness of the human psychology in his macabre paintings, already hitting a lot of the artists she featured in Art of Darkness, and the imagery of poet and mystic William Blake. His uncanny dreamlike works convey a significant inner mythology of his very own. During Paris's Belle Epoque, artistic styles influenced by the esoteric flourished. Symbolism and those who thought art and the developments of technology didn't come at the expense of spirituality. And Art Nouveau, at the root of which was a preoccupation with sensitivity to the psyche, and which combined aspects of fantasy, dream worlds, and nature, offered respite from the anxieties of the industrial age. Brilliant visual renderings of these themes can be seen in the woozy, luminous visions of symbolist painter Odilon Redon and the lavish, mystical Art Nouveau elegance of Alphonse Mucha. 20th century surrealists conceived of practices and generated works that defied reason and denounced a rationalist mindset. Tapping into the unconscious mind and the power of imagination were the likes of Dali and Lenora Carrington, who wrote, "The task of the right eye is to peer in the telescope while the left eye peers into the microscope." This quote from a creator of bold transcendental visions reveals an artist who is not content with peeking only at part of reality, and at least to me, speaks to what can be glimpsed in so many iconic and powerful pieces of occult art. A space in which the agonizing and the marvelous are equally combined. Spirit and matter, life and death, past and future, and in between. As mediator between the macrocosm and the microcosm, the artist / magician translating and transmuting for us the big and the small, without which we'd have no whole. Carrington continues. Because a telescope, without its other essential half, the microscope, seems to me a symbol of the darkest incomprehension. It is the practitioner of the art, however you choose to interpret art, that utilizes these tools in tandem and draws forth what is found here. Belief in magic and the hope that there is more dreamt of than in our familiar philosophies, Horatio, is a vital aspect of the human condition, and is through those practices that delve into divining and decoding the unknown that we begin to throw light on the hidden knowledge that our very souls seek. This longing for illumination has been evident in cross-cultural artistic ideas and powerful archetypal images and symbols since time immemorial. This eternal human yearning for answers is an especially powerful desire in times of turmoil and upheaval. Over history, time and again, people turn to spirituality and the study of the occult for self-empowerment. During times of uncertainty and chaos, when we practice magic or art, we turn within to reconnect within ourselves, reclaim power, wrest control from institutions and establishments, and to begin manifesting seeds of change. So yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. In comparison to the Art of Darkness, she doesn't really have the bits attached to each picture, and so there's just a lot more of her own general writing to go over in this one. The art of the occult does not necessarily take a chronological approach to these arcane and artistic explorations, nor is it meant to provide a comprehensive study of the various artists and schools of thought referenced herein. My intention is to introduce important themes and showcase the artists who have been influenced and led by them. Though much of the art featured in this book is informed by various belief systems and occult traditions, one does not need to adopt or even practice these beliefs to appreciate the results. It is, however, also my intention to wind all of these strands together to weave a space for both practitioners of the hidden arts and visual art enthusiasts alike to explore their occult interests. Following chapters divided thematically into the cosmos, higher beings, and practitioners, act as a lively and enlightening introduction to the art of mysticism, while providing a visual feast of eclectic artwork informed and inspired by spiritual beliefs, magical techniques, mythology, and otherworldly experiences. My hope is that the imagery and information presented in this book covers a wide range of artists and creations, from iconic to obscure, and provides a wealth of inspiration to incite your curiosity, excite your senses, and perhaps inform your own practice. Whether you incorporate them into your personal search for the truth, make them part of magical philosophies, or experiment with them as part of your artistic techniques and process. Perhaps Lenore Carrington's surrealist interpretations of myth, alchemy, and Kabbalah might inspire a focus in your ritual practice. Learning more about the automatic drawings of Hilma af Klint and Madge Gill may move you to channel the artistic spirit. As you sketch out your dreams, you may spend some time redecorating your magical space with the symbolic and mythical images of the pre-Raphaelites. Or even relax with some mindless spiral doodling as art therapy, later scrying the scraps for sacred skate. However, you choose to explore the artists and their creations in revealing the elements and philosophies hidden in these works of art, as well as sharing insights and information on the artists who have created these pieces. I hope that you will consider the art of the occult a valuable tool in your arcane arsenal, and oft reach for a sourcebook of mythic, magical imagery for the modern mystic. Whatever you choose to take away from these words and symbols, paintings and illustrations, every words you discover in them, I wish you truth and transformation and a canvas awash with limitless possibility. A fabulous contemplations of the cosmos stirs us, declared scientist Carl Sagan. There is a tingling in the spine, a catch in the voice, a faint sensation, as if a distant memory of falling from a height. We know we are approaching the greatest of mysteries. Lift your eyes up into the vast sky. The sun's dazzling rays pierce the billowing clouds at noon. The moon's mistily glowing halo illuminates the shadowy midnight darkness. The incomprehensibly vast distance of starlight reaches us from the deep void of space. The universe is a panoramic painter's palette of indescribable celestial beauty. But even with these remarkable cues, it is difficult to conceive of its expansive frontiers. Many of its aspects are still too abstract for us to fully grasp or understand. As the astrologers and alchemists once probed the universe through observation, experiment, and theory, so too did the artists questioning the world we live in. From early fascinations with constellations of the zodiac and humankind's place within that larger universe of life cycles, fate, and destiny, to the hidden patterns and spiritual truths present in the smallest atom, to the largest spiraling galaxy, and attempting to understand the connections between the elements, earth, fire, and water. in order to explain the nature and complexity of matter and spirit, to expanding upon these fundamental elemental building blocks in the exploration of alchemical ideas of transformation and arcane spiritual art. In the quest for immortality and eternal life, the cosmos and all it encompasses has long intrigued visual artists, and its myriad mysteries remain a recurring subject in our society and culture. Through these artists' eyes and various painterly interpretations of brushstrokes, we can see how humankind has attempted to capture the immeasurable, poetic grandeur of the cosmos, as well as the manifold changes in how we understand the universe. And our place within it. Following chapters present introductions to these ancient and transformative ideas of alchemy, sacred geometry, the elements, the zodiac, and as Carl Sagan was wont to say, the contemplations by those learned scholars upon how these greatest of mysteries were approached, analyzed, and assimilated. Reflective of an enduring captivation with these mystical cosmic themes, the philosophers who made it their life's work to understand them. The paintings included here feature a vivid and diverse range of mesmerizing artistic representations inspired by these sacred occult concepts. Silvery frost-tipped snowflakes and the prismatic hexagonal wax cells of golden honeycomb, the iridescent overlap of fish scales and the dizzying spiral of a nautilus shell, the vast neural networks of our brains, and a fresh new tattoo depicting the delicate interlocking circles of the flower of life. What could these things possibly have in common? United, they are each composed of intricate patterns hinting at an underlying significance and synchronicity between seemingly disparate elements, from the smallest atom to the infinite universe itself, have a keen eye and remarkable skills of deduction. These wondrous displays of universal pattern recognition reveal to us certain proportions, cycles, and patterns woven into the fabric of all natural creations. Patterns which at their core contain certain mathematical constants that appear again and again in myriad forms across the span of centuries everywhere in the world. It is believed that by studying the nature of these patterns and the relationships between them, insight and perspective may be gained into the mysteries of the universe itself. This ancient idea that mathematical principles and spiritual truths are profoundly interlinked is referred to as sacred geometry, a term used to encompass the religious, philosophical, and spiritual beliefs that have emerged around geometry in various cultures throughout the whole of human history. In a closer examination of what form these mathematical constants take, we look first to numbers. The Greek mathematician Pythagoras believed that reality is primarily mathematical and declared that the numbers themselves were sacred, ascribing divine meaning to numbers 1 through 10, but one of the most sacred numbers which has puzzled mathematicians, sculptors, and artists for millennia is the golden ratio, otherwise known as pi. Pi can be used to divide a line or rectangle into two unequal parts so that the proportion of the two new parts is the same as the proportion of the larger part of the original line or rectangle. This is also known as the golden mean. It is a principle that is revered by nearly every culture on the planet. It is possible that the Egyptians used pi in the construction of the Great Pyramids, and the Greeks may have applied it to the design and sculptures in the Parthenon. On a smaller scale, the pentagram, which you may wear around your neck, a holy symbol for many religions, is a shape which the golden ratio appears in abundance. Elsewhere, in approximately 1202, Leonardo of Pisa conceived the enigmatic Fibonacci series, a sequence of numbers in which the next number in the series is found by adding the two numbers before it. You may recognize its mention, but its origins are rooted in less thrilling calculations of burgeoning local rabbit populations. It's fascinating to note that in this series of numbers, when you divide each number by the one immediately before it, each successive division gets closer and closer to converging on 1.6180339887, thus linking it to the value of pi, or the golden ratio. The number that lies at the heart of sacred geometry, Fibonacci series can appear in a variety of uncanny phenomena in mathematics and science, art, and nature. The number of petals on a plant, the shell of a snail, a spider's web, from something as small as the cochlea of our inner ear to a thing as immense as the spiral arms of the Milky Way. From sacred numbers, we move on to sacred shapes, as we look to the Platonic and Archimedean solids, 3D multi-sided figures whose faces are made up of either one type of polygon or two or more types of polygon, respectively, both of which are important historical pieces of practical and mystical geometry. The Greeks believed that a handful of these solids were the core patterns of physical creation and thought to be the pattern behind the life force itself. Other shapes and symbols associated with sacred geometry include the Vesica Piscis, Metroton's cube, and the flower of life. The 19 interlocking circles of the latter represent perfect form, proportion, and harmony, and are said to represent the connection of life that runs through all beings. Over the centuries, architects have relied on these constants, ratios, and shapes to build sacred structures such as temples, mosques, megaliths, monuments, and churches. Astronomers have utilized geometry to determine holy seasons, and philosophers have beheld the harmony of the universe and the numerical properties of music. Geometry is a vital aspect in the creation of religious art and iconography. In the use of divine proportion, symbolic numbers, geometric perspective can be observed in the classical imagery of the Last Supper or the Vitruvian Man. Piet Mondrian, a Dutch painter of the early 20th century and a dedicated theosophist who shared Da Vinci's views that mathematics and art are closely linked, often exhibited the concepts of sacred geometry in his abstract works. Employing the image of the golden rectangle, a frequently used compositional tool that falls under the golden ratio, in exploring the principles and ideologies of sacred geometry, how these mathematical ratios, harmonics, and proportions manifest time and again in nature and science, how they found in music, light, and cosmology, and how they have inspired the greatest works of art, we begin to see the smallest glimpse of how this illuminating study reveals universal codes that connect us to the infinite and sublime. Piet Mondrian was one of the greatest painters and the leading abstract artist of the 20th century. His abstract art consisted of white ground, upon which he painted a grid of vertical and horizontal black lines in the three primary colors. There's some argument as to whether he deliberately incorporated concepts of the golden mean into his paintings. He was said to be an intuitive artist who arrived at his results through the harmonies and balance of trial and error. It is up to us as individuals to decide how to interpret the spirit of his work. Hilma af Klint was a Swedish artist, medium, and mystic. Her powerful abstract paintings drew upon mathematics, scientific research, and religion, and represented complex spiritual concepts, organically inspired images, and mystical symbols. Diagrams, words, and geometric series all form part of af Klint's body of work. Daniel Martin Diaz is a Tucson-based artist. His work is deep both in cryptic recurring symbols and scientific and philosophical concepts, such as anatomy, computer science, math, cosmology, biology, quantum physics, and consciousness. He believes that there is an underlying dichotomy in the power of technology and our quantum connection to it and our universe. Presented at a conference on art and psyche in Syracuse, Italy, Vestica Pisces, by contemporary artist Joe Goodwin, is an exercise in synchronicity. The work, not then complete, was noted by the artist as having a glaring compositional problem in the form of empty space. The addition of an off-center circle overlapping the one already on the canvas resulted in an important symbol, representing the intersection of the world of the divine with the world of matter, and also the beginning of creation. Given that this conference held an audience mostly comprised of Jungian analysts, this process and experience was well understood. With roots in the Art Deco movement, Dutch artist and theosophist Olga Frobe-Catelyn's precise and geometrical work is reminiscent of impossible, yet wonderfully organic structures and motifs. They reference the principles of sacred geometry and the secret form of the divine. Autodidactic artist Rafael Araujo's work is the outcome of years of persistent trial and error. Upon the theme of tri-dimensional geometry and the Platonic search of the illusion of the truth. In doing so, he has developed structures that could be perfectly described as illustrated equations of natural subjects. To that end, he works with the concept of the golden ratio to produce the perfect results. Barcelona-born artist Miriam Escofes has explored many themes, mediums, and ideas in her vast body of work, and the unifying passion linking everything she creates is the search for a kind of hyperreal expression. In the 5 Platonic solids, we observe a young man seated in surroundings brimming with wonders, both sumptuous and natural, gazing upon an orb containing the artistic motifs of the 5 Platonic solids. Friedrich Soderbergh's vibrant, symmetrical compositions are, according to the artist, often based on existing images within the esoteric and mystical traditions and can be seen as a map of their symbols and archetypes. To the viewer, the balanced geometries and the recurring visual implication of cosmic forces evoke feelings of a holy experience in a sacred place. Susan Jamison's feminine iconography spans several media, including painting, drawing, textile-based sculpture, and installation, all steeped in ritualistic and mythological associations. Her Rocks and Threads series pairs classical shapes and symbols associated with sacred geometry alongside natural elements, intertwining both the ephemeral and the eternal. Hildegard of Bingen was a German Benedictine abbess, writer, composer, philosopher, Christian mystic, and polymath. She is one of the best-known composers of sacred monophony and has been considered by many in Europe to be the founder of scientific natural history in Germany. Her visions from the design and construction of the monastery that she directed, her cosmic mandalas full of myth, memory, and symbolism, that she art directed, all broadly engage with the timeless principles of sacred geometry. Artist of contemporary icons and sacred subjects, Jody Simmons has depicted the Christ figure in a gently welcoming gesture. For Simmons, Christ is the blueprint of all creation, the fixed point in the circle of eternity from which lines radiate out in all directions, creating new shapes and forms wherever they are intersected. In this painting, the central figure is enclosed by the orale of the Vesica Piscis. That must be a pretty popular theme. It really keeps coming up. The frame that frequently surrounds the totality of an iconographic figure. Ernst Heinrich Philipp August Haeckel was a German zoologist, naturalist, philosopher, physician, professor, marine biologist, and accomplished artist whose published works include hundreds of detailed illustrations of animals and sea creatures. It was said that Haeckel's idol was Goethe, maintained that art as well as science could unearth underlying truth of nature. It's a little bit frustrating. I think I might only do one more section. Yeah, that's a bit much to get to. I was hoping that, like Art of Darkness, could get through each part neatly, but doesn't look like it's going to be that way. Art theorist, intellectual historian, and cultural scientist Abby M. Warburg mused, "Was bedeutet es, sich im Raum zu orientieren?" In pondering this question, one may look to Warburg's wildly ambitious and sadly unfinished last project, the Mnemosyne Atlas, a metaphoric mood board comprised of a constellation of symbolic images created to stimulate the viewer's memory, imagination, and understanding of what Warburg called the afterlife of antiquity. Through these cosmographic and art historical images, Warburg attempts to illuminate how fundamental visual motifs pass from one culture to another over time. On the subject of space, in a more literal sense, Warburg was keenly interested in astrological motifs as pictorial forms that guide and influence humanity in its quest to orientate itself in the cosmos. It was during his speech at the 10th International Congress of Art History held in Rome in 1912 that he shared a critical interpretation in the mysterious frescoes that had been uncovered in the early 19th century in the Palazzo Schifanoia in Ferrara. He saw astrology as representing an important development on the road to human enlightenment, and theorized that certain cryptic figures in the frescoes were derived from decans, or astrological figures, the gods ruling 10-day periods referring them as the missing links between image and symbol. Warburg traced the route of the astrological imagery back through Persian, Indian, Egyptian, and Greek mythology. Scholars declare that this revelation had a formative influence on our idea of astrology-based iconographic symbolism. One can hardly blame Warburg for his fascination. Our fierce need to understand the universe and our place in it through the study of the zodiac and practice of astrology permeates cultural consciousness. Much as they are today, fate and astrology were popular notions with the ancient world as well. For many thousands of years, humans have looked upon the stars as living things, capable of influencing our destinies and bringing a sense of order of chaos. From predicting weather patterns and natural disasters to guiding the politics of nations, and ruling even the smallest daily actions of individuals, today we mourn the fates of star-crossed lovers. We thank our lucky stars, read our horoscopes in the newspapers, and say soothing things to our friends after a bad breakup. The concept of astrology and the signs of the zodiac did not originate fully formed in the back column of a women's interest magazine, hard as that might be to believe. The apparent birthplace of astrology was Mesopotamia. For thousands of years before Christ, Assyrians and Babylonians scrutinized the heavens for omens of their fate. Babylonian star lore was introduced to the Greeks early in the 4th century BC, and through studies and writings of Plato, Aristotle, and others, astrology came to be regarded as an essential science. It was soon adopted by the Romans and the Arabs, and eventually spread throughout the entire world. Of course, as pointed out by Abby Warburg, the symbolism of the stars and the zodiac has long been reflected in various cultures' illustrations of astrological motifs and their artful attempts to visually capture the cosmos. Art historians, for example, have spoken on possible astrological interpretations for the famous Last Supper, with each of the 12 apostles representing the 12 signs. Of the zodiac and Jesus' son. In other interpretations, the astrological energies are rearranged. Jesus becomes a Pisces, visionary surrealist artist Salvador Dali, with his enthusiastic interest in archetypical imagery and fascination with mysticism and freeing the unconscious from the constraints of everyday reality, depicted the 12 signs of the zodiac in 1967 in a series of watercolors. A wonderfully absurd example of artistic license, he portrayed Cancer the crab as a melancholy polka-dotted lobster. In examining the centuries-old relationship between astrology and art, we can see some of the fascinating and provocative ways in which astrology and symbolism interact, gaining deeper insight into the question of how art reflects astral and heavenly influences. Sometimes depicted in writings and drawings from ancient, classical, medieval, and modern times, the zodiac man represents a roughly consistent correlation of zodiacal names with body parts. The zodiac man appeared most frequently in calendars, devotional books of hours, and treatises on philosophy, astrology, and medicine in the medieval era. Contemporary illustrator Patrizia Laporta's colorful rendering of Nostradamus depicts a French astrologer, physician, a most widely renowned seer of the Renaissance, flitting whimsically through the night sky, ostensibly consulting the stars and engaging in prophetic mediations. Damien Chavez is an artist and instructor from Los Angeles. He studied in Florence, Prague, and Paris before he attended the School of Art, Institute of Chicago, and the Art Center College of Design, California. His signature style consists of allegorical portraits incorporating strong emphasis on ornament and richly intricate background textures. Ernest Proctor was an English designer, illustrator, and painter. His 1925 The Zodiac cleverly combines representations of the 12 animal and human symbols of the zodiac into a spirited composition of elements. Amidst the chaos of a swirling cosmos, merging ancient legends and symbols with a modernist form and vivid colors, Timur Dovats is a Russian artist whose figurative and emblematic works draw inspiration from ancient histories, early Byzantine art, medieval tapestries, and mythology. Dovats believes that artists will always find rejuvenation in the eternal youth of ancients and core ideas that do not lose meaning as time passes, but rather gain new significances with each historical transition. An avid student and sometimes practitioner of occult and mystical teachings, abstract artist Vasily Kandinsky was deeply interested in spiritual pursuits. While composed as a purely abstract arrangement of various sized circles, his canvas is full of suggestions of the cosmos and, with imagination, some interesting interpretations of the constellations of the zodiac. Constellations drawings are a series of evocative line and dot ink sketches drawn on 16 pages of a notebook. For these small drawings, Pablo Picasso took inspiration from sky charts and aimed at an artistic exploration of the limit between abstraction and figuration. Initially spied these Persian astrological diagrams with reference to their inclusion in the 1966 book of striking occult imagery, History of Occult Sciences, written by engineer and historian of alchemy and Freemasonry René Alou. Further research revealed that they originated in the Book of Fixed Stars, an astronomical text written by Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi. The diagrams illustrate different cultures' converging ideas of astrology. Vlaams Floris was a Flemish painter, draftsman, and etcher. He greatly influenced the Northern Renaissance and was well known for portrayals of a broad range of allegorical subject matter. In this painting, exploring the operation of celestial influences on human bodies and terrestrial events, astrology, a winged female personification gleams besides a globe with zodiacal star symbols. On the ground are various scientific instruments and sundials. This is one among a series of paintings by Floris for the villa of merchant and art collector Nicholas Jongulik. Nicolaus Constantinius Kurlionis was a Lithuanian painter, composer, and writer, and has been considered one of the pioneers of abstract art in Europe. Kurlionis was interested in the structure of the universe and man's place in it. The most famous Kurlionis series is his 12 paintings named the Zodiac. This theme was inspired by the ancient myths of the constellations, and it was supported by the artist's interest in astronomy. Influential and prolific French illustrator and caricaturist J.J. Grandville created delightful, discordant, and anthropomorphized imagery which created the foibles and follies of humanity. With the metaphor of the menagerie, Granville's work is now recognized as a major precursor and inspiration to the Surrealist movement. This dancing circle of astrological archetypes, we can make out the attributes of each of the signs of the zodiac. As for the artist himself, born on September 13th, 1803, Granville was a Virgo. Alphonse Maria Mucho, known internationally as Alphonse Mucho, was a Czech painter, illustrator, and graphic artist. Living in Paris during the Art Nouveau period, he is best known for his distinctly stylized and decorative theatrical posters. Zodiac was Mucho's first work under his contract with the printer Champenois and was originally designed as an in-house calendar for the company. In this piece, Mucho integrated 12 zodiac signs in the halo-like disc behind the woman's head. One of Mucho's customary motifs, it became one of his most popular designs. So, we'll go ahead and end with this today. I'm sure if I'll be streaming tomorrow, so we'll most likely be continuing this on Wednesday.